Let me turn to our ranking member, Mr. Tancredo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Taylor, has it been your experience that the preservation of wildlife habitat is endangered by the actions taken by people coming across the border at areas where they, of course, have less to worry about in terms of border protection, border security? Would that not be, I'll put it this way, would wildlife areas, national wildlife areas, be more or less alluring to the person who's coming across the border who does not want to get caught? What, if you're looking at that border, where would the path be for you?
It's been my experience, Mr. Tancredo, and thank you for the question, that they're going to go where they're going to be most successful. And where they'll be most successful is where the terrain permits them to evade detection and where the Border Patrol presence would be diminished.
And would that Border Patrol presence be diminished in a wildlife, in a wilderness area in particular, wildlife area?
By definition of the '64 Act, it would greatly diminish access.
So if we are truly concerned about the protection of the wildlife in a wilderness area, would we not, is it not logical for us to then try and do something to prevent entrance into that area by people who are going to despoil it?
Yes, both from the actual destruction of the habitat and the despoiling of the area, visually both.
I recall it was part of a report I remember some time ago about the difficulty that the Border Patrol was having in getting into wildlife or wilderness areas because, of course, they were protected. And the fact is that illegal aliens do not care about that protection. Therefore, they seek those places out. But it's very difficult for the Border Patrol to actually patrol the area. They have to either go in by horseback. By that time, of course, people are gone. Or they were sometimes parachuted in, if I'm not mistaken. But the other problem with using horses is that the horses had to be quarantined for 2 weeks so that they would make sure that nothing they ate would eventually go through them and end up hurting the grass or something of that nature.
There are all types of restrictions on wilderness areas. And depending on the sensitivity of the habitat in a particular area, it has things that people are specifically interested in preventing. And if it is a plant that is transmitted by seed, which certain grasses in the cactus monuments, they actually pay people to go out and take these plants out before they bloom each year. And a horse, of course, eating grass would transmit that particular seed.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson, has your organization done any work at all trying to estimate the cost to the American taxpayer of maintaining the illegal alien community in this country? Has it looked at that at all?
No, it has not. Okay.
A number of organizations have. A number of reports are out there, which would certainly indicate that it runs into the hundreds of billions. One I saw, $1 trillion over 10 years, that are potential costs that we incur, the taxpayers of this country incur as a result of the infrastructural costs for the illegal immigrant population in this country, both certainly health care, educational expenses, and the like. So everything has to be gauged on that basis as to exactly what it is that, the amount of money that it would cost us to try and prevent the action in the first place, as opposed to what it costs if we do nothing at all. Now, everybody has said today, I think almost everyone on the panel, with rare exception, has agreed that borders are important. There were a couple of people who suggested, or at least one, who said that to her and many of her friends, they were not. They really didn't matter. Borders didn't really exist down here for them. I would suggest that that's not a unique impression for a lot of people in and around this area, that borders don't matter. But let me just suggest to us all that this is not a problem that is faced only by the people in this particular area. They are impacted dramatically by it, undeniably. But so is the rest of the United States of America. And as members of Congress, we have a responsibility, we have a duty to do what we can to protect and defend the nation as a whole. And so it extends to looking at the borders and seeing what we can do, even though there are people in the area that may disagree with the implementation. We have to, as I say, our responsibility is something else. It's broader than that. And we have to come to the realization, the understanding that there are people here who really don't believe borders are important, especially the border between Mexico and the United States, that wish that it didn't exist, and in their minds, it really doesn't. But for the rest of us, and for the security of the nation as a whole, we have to take into consideration the fact that there are much bigger issues at play here than someone's multiculturalist attitude toward borders. And that's all that I suggest that we all do when we look at this. This is a very serious issue, and if you don't like a fence around or between Mexico and if you don't want a fence between the city and Mexico, I suggest then you build this fence around the northern part of your city.